Welcome to our talk show about agricultural topics. Who do we have here?
We have Kieran here.
Okay, and I'm Ben, as you guys know. So, Kieran, what do you know about oil production and oil gathering?
Oh, oil production, oil gathering. So I know that that oil it's a highly used commodity around the world. I mean, for everyday usage, I would say, from motor vehicles all the way to ships and anything like that. Basically, it functions our world.
So, do you know about the process of fracking and like the idea of groundwater contamination?
Yeah. So fracking. Yeah, I know about like the fracking out in the Midwest as well, and beside, well, not only the Midwest but also down in the Gulf or like wherever they typically drill oil.
Do you know what fracking is? Like, do you know what the process is?
I like kind of know the process of it. Like I can't like explain it like from a passionate standpoint, from like a professional standpoint.
So what fracking is that's when you pump water filled with either biochemical materials or sand or minerals or all the above, and you pump it into the ground to force the oil up back out of the well.
Okay.
And groundwater contamination is when that contaminated water gets spread out into the cracked rock and can be exposed to other freshwater sources.
Got it.
So do you know about how the economy is based off of oil in our world?
Our world. I mean, I just know like it tends to fluctuate, throughout right now, through like political of course political and everything.
So yes, over 150 countries currently mine for oil in the world, and over $1.6 trillion every year is contributed in tax dollars alone to oil production. So our world is very heavily based off of oil in both the economy and in use.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Kieran, thank you for sticking around for my part of the talk show.
Yeah.
So for my portion of this, we'll be talking about lithium mining, and I'll ask you a couple questions regarding it. First question, to start it off, do you own electric vehicles?
No.
Do you have any reason why you would own one in the future?
I wouldn't have any interest to do so at all.
Sounds good. So are you familiar with any of the processes used to mine or extract the lithium from?
Yeah.
For the batteries?
Like I understand like they have to go mine, out in the middle of nowhere to find, lithium somewhere and have to extract it, similar to oil in a sense.
So you've got the gist of it, but there's a little bit in the process that so what happens is there's heavy equipments that burn tons of fossil fuels to mine it out, first thing, and it's mainly first thing that's mined out is the lithium containing rock, which is primarily spodumene, and out of which that spodumene is crushed, and then it's the lithium portion of it is separated from it, from which that solution is either treated with hydrogen hydroxide or sulfuric acid, and that treatment is then heated to approximately 1100 degrees Celsius, which then cools, dries, and we have the final product of lithium. So in that process, how much do you think has had how many disadvantages do you think happen in that whole process?
Oh, I think a lot by far, because number one, you had to use fossil fuels in order to even go to the end product in the first place, right? I mean, not only just fossil fuels, but you have to lubricate the machines as well, and then the time and the money that you have to even burn through to even get to that end point, right? On top of that.
Spot on. You've got everything right. I would like to add that the water contaminated through it. There's tons of water contaminations from its excess.
Personally, I don't want metals in my oil,
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for me regarding this topic?
No, I don't. No, thank you for your time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming back for another episode of talking about agricultural issues. Today we have Grady, and we're going to be talking about oil extraction. So, can you tell me about oil extraction and how it affects our groundwater?
I actually don't really know much about oil extraction.
Okay, so oil extraction happens through fracking, which that is where you pump water into wells, but the water is infused with biochemical materials, minerals, sand, dirt, anything you can possibly think of. It's pumped into the ground to force everything else back up. And the groundwater contamination is where that water seeps outside of the well, where it gets spilled into fresh water and contaminates it completely. So, do you also know about the economic strengths of mining for oil?
Yeah.
So, mining for oil, over 150 countries worldwide do it every single year. That is why, in taxes alone, oil makes over $1.6 trillion per year. It also provides over 100,000 jobs in the U.S. alone per year. What are your opinions on oil extraction in general?
I think it's something that we need for economy to flourish and exist, but I don't feel a certain way about it.
All right.
I feel like it's necessary.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Hey Grady, I'm Ohm. I appreciate you sticking around for my part of this talk show. So let's start off with, are you familiar with, well, let me backtrack. Do you drive an electric vehicle? No? Are you familiar with the processes, like the mining process of lithium? So let me educate you a little bit on that. So the spodumene is one of the most common rocks that contains lithium. So it's mined with, obviously, that's the way it was supposed to be. It's mined and then it's crushed, which then the lithium is separated, and then that lithium is then treated with sulfuric acid or hydroxide. And then that treatment is then heated to about 1100 degrees Celsius, which from there it's then dried, and from there you have your end product, depending on which treatment you use. That's how that is. So in that process, do you know like how many disadvantages there were?
Yeah, I mean, using fossil fuels
So another thing I would say is water contamination. Definitely water contamination would be one of them because of that excavation and everything. And also with the lithium batteries, you can't really recycle them. So about like 5% every year are recycled. The others really aren't. Do you have any other questions in regards to lithium mining or anything?
Oh, really?
All right, Grady, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, welcome back to our last episode of talking about agricultural issues. Today we have Bryce. Thank you for coming in. So, what can you tell me about oil extraction and the practice of fracking?
What I know about it's like pumping a bunch of liquid underground. It's not really great for the environment.
So yeah, so that liquid is actually full of different types of minerals, sand, dirt, and sometimes even biochemical materials. That water can sometimes escape from the well underground, or it can spill above ground, and it can be introduced into fresh, clean water. And then that water can no longer be used for anything else because it's polluted with all of these different types of things that you, of course, you don't want to drink or shower in. So, what can you tell me about the economy and about how it almost revolves around oil?
It seems like a lot comes around oil, gas prices, everything runs on oil, so it's pretty, revolves a lot around it.
Exactly. So many countries around the world mine for oil. Almost 150 countries yearly mine for oil. So all that oil, it gets circulated around the world, and it's used everywhere. It's used for everything. It's used for every single day, whether you know it or not. And so that way, over $1.6 trillion in tax revenue alone per year is contributed to the mining of oil. How do you feel positively or negatively about drilling for oil in America?
Since it's such a big part of the economy, I think it would be good if we drilled a little bit of oil, but I'm also a lot of concern about the environment, like you're saying with the fracking, it pollutes the water. It's a good thing.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure.
Hey Bryce, I appreciate you sticking around for my portion. So let me start with a basic question. Do you own an electric vehicle?
I do not.
You don't. So you probably own a phone that has lithium-ion battery. Are you familiar with the lithium extraction process?
Not entirely. I know it's not very sustainable, but that's about it.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So let me give you some background on the lithium mining process. So spodumene, it primarily contains the lithium in it. It is mined, crushed, then heated to 1100 degrees Celsius. Then it's treated with either hydroxide or sulfuric acid, and it is then dried, and you get lithium and it's ready for commercial use. In that process, are you familiar with any of the disadvantages that happen?
Not exactly.
Okay. So I would say, one, lots of excavators and stuff that use diesel are used to mine it up. Another thing would be, is that about 5% of the lithium is recycled every year. So that's also another thing. And one last thing I would say is contaminating our waters in that process. But hey, do you have any other questions for me?
Not really.
Sounds good. I appreciate you, Bryce.
Yeah, of course.